Good morning, sir. We are here to ask you some questions about breastfeeding and bottle feeding. Is breastfeeding an alternative to bottle feeding for new moms?
Okay, I'm sure you wanted to ask if bottle feeding is an
Uh,
alternative to breastfeeding.
Breastfeeding.
No, it's not an alternative, and I'm happy you're asking this question because there's a big misconception out there about the place of bottle feeding versus breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is the standard meal, food for newborns for a period of time, particularly from birth up until 6 months minimum. That is the time where babies need to get the best from their mother. I understand that some mothers may extend breastfeeding up to 1 year and even beyond, but it's important to mention here that there's no substitute for breastfeeding the baby from birth to 6 months. It's also good to know that there are certain rare occasions where the doctor or the neonatologist or pediatrician will prefer to add bottle feeding or additional food apart from the breastfeeding that the baby is getting. And these are instances that are the exceptions; they are not the rules. It's also important to mention that occasionally when babies are just born, maybe through cesarean section or through a difficult delivery, the baby may not latch onto the breast properly and there may be need to augment their feeding. These are decisions that should be taken only by the experts involved. There are instances where multiple births, multiple gestation giving, and the caregivers may feel that may be difficult for the mother to cope, which makes sense anyway. Then they will consider the alternative of augmented feeding through bottle feeding. May I clarify some points? I presume that the question bottle feeding means alternative to breast milk. I think it's important to clarify that from the beginning because you can also express breast milk and put it to the bottle and give to the baby, probably when the mother is not around. Ultimately, the baby is still getting breast milk given through the bottle. There are times where babies are born with low birth weight or babies are sick and they may not have the capacity to suckle effectively from the mother's breast. So you want to express that breast milk and put into other containers, other means or modalities where it will be easy for the baby to take in that breast milk. Now this underscores the importance of breastfeeding, that even when babies have challenges with sucking, maybe they are preterm or what you call premature, or maybe they are sick, they don't have the capacity to suck effectively, that sucking reflexes is not well developed, caregivers still go out of their way to ensure that they get that breast milk into a form where the baby can still get the milk as food, to show you that breast milk is important. By bottle feeding, I presume that you mean alternative to breast milk or what we call breast milk substitutes. They are alternatives or substitutes and they are not as good enough as the breast milk. It is important to mention that breast milk is the ideal and the best milk for babies to take in from birth till at least 6 months. And exclusive breastfeeding involves offering the babies this milk product from the mother directly to the baby from the period of birth to up to 6 months, because this milk product is the best form of feeding that the baby can get. There's no substitute for it. If there are instances where there's need for augmented feeding or breast milk substitute, decisions should be taken by the caregiver, and these are decisions that the caregiver does not want to take because the caregiver knows that the best milk for the baby is still breast milk.